Hi, hello and welcome. My name is the Alpha Female and you're listening to Turnbuckle Talk.
Whoa! G'day, mateys. Bushwhacker Luke here, 2015 Hall of Famer, and you're listening to Turnbuckle Talk. Yeah! Whoa!
This is pro wrestling's only modern day Viking Gunner, and you're on Turnbuckle Talk.
Hey, this is Nick Magnus Solis, and you're listening to Turnbuckle Talk.
Hi, this is Leva Blue Pants Bates, and you are listening to Turnbuckle Talk.
Hey, this is Jeff Jarrett, the king of the mountain and founder of Global Force Wrestling, and you're listening to Turnbuckle Talk. Hey, fellas, you guys have a great day, and this is only because I'm talking to Canadians. It is actually spitting snow in Tennessee.
See? Oh my God!
That's a great. We've had 70-degree weather here. We really had a warm December, and I get on the phone with damn Canadians and we're spitting snow. So.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Turnbuckle Talk, episode 346. RIP Rob Rage. My name is Chris Best. I'm alongside OMD. OMD, my brother, tell me how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. I mean, I had a long, cold day at work, but, it wasn't overly stressful. But now we're just here to talk some wrestling.
And talk wrestling we will for the next however long we need to get through these stories, because we've got a plethora. There's that word.
Yes,
we got a plethora of stories today. It's actually been a fairly busy wrestling news day. Not news week, news day.
Right.
But let's get it all started. Let's get started off with our first story, and we're going to discuss the Fatal 4-Way Intercontinental title match and the botched finish that happened last night. What happened was they were going for Bronson Reed and Ivar were on opposite corners. Bronson was going for his splash, Ivar going for his moonsault. However, the Miz was supposed to roll out of the way. Ricochet wasn't. So Miz gets the pinfall. Ivar was supposed to get the pinfall, but Ricochet kicked out as well. There was a double pin that happened at the end of that match, but the referee continued to count the 3 count. Now, there was a little bit of hesitation on the ref side because you could tell that he knew what that finish was going to be. But I got to ask you, OMD, was it right for the ref to continue on that 3 count?
It was, because he would have had time to go and check on the competitors after the show.
Mm-hmm.
This did not lead to a situation like we saw a number of weeks ago in AEW when a ref came under scrutiny for a wrestler being injured very early in the match.
Right.
And not knowing that the finish had been changed on the fly. And in this situation, I did read earlier as well that Ricochet was led away after the match and went into concussion protocol to be tested for injuries and concussion as well.
Yeah, so that's part of the thing why I think Ricochet kicked out, was because it was just more of a natural instinct and being kind of knocked silly. I've been in the ring before and been knocked silly and have forgotten finishes because of that.
Right.
And I'm certain you have as well. So
yes.
So there's no fault to anyone in this match, period. The referee did the right thing. The referee did continue the 3 count. Yes, there was that little bit of hesitation.
Yep.
But he still continued the 3 count, gave the win to the Miz, and I'm certain that maybe they're going to rewrite something where the Miz may still have to defend his number 1 contendership now or something. Maybe.
Who knows? And we noticed the hesitancy throughout the entire count, because the ref seemingly did look confused as to, okay, which fall am I counting here? Because normally in a double pin, in a double pin situation, I've seen times where the ref has used both hands. I've seen times where the ref has used one hand. But in this situation, I think the ref's placement was a little bit wrong, as he should have been facing both pins and not stuck in between them, having to look over to each side.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's the one thing I did notice the ref was doing in that 3 count was he was looking as he was counting, which again, not a bad move. Not a bad move at all. And we've got the one and only. We've got Ed Fries coming in saying, "Hey, gents, and rest in peace to Rob Rage." Yes, we will be talking about him later on. We also have Papa Smokes coming in saying, "Yo, boys, what's going on, Papa Smokes?" And we've got the one, the only, a man who's absent tonight, Carl Carafel, coming in and saying, "Thank you for the support, Ed."
Yes, yes.
Carl Carafel cannot be here tonight. He is way on assignment.
Yes, he is.
But no, this botch finish. I do hope Ricochet is okay with this. Is okay because he did get hurt during the match.
Right.
Speedy recovery is all I can say for him right now, and hopefully this concussion thing does not derail him because he was on a fairly decent push in my eyes.
A decent push in getting TV time, but again, the glorified high-flying enhancement talent, unfortunately.
Yeah, but I mean, like, eventually, I think he would have been in that upper echelon for at least the Intercontinental title. So
I would hope so. But again, it's one of those things where the WWE signs somebody and bastardizes them, and now they have to continue to struggle and push through whatever they get booked for.
right. Right. Yeah, so the referee, again, he was right in finishing that 3 count. I've seen it even on indie shows where an injury happens in the match and the referee's not sure. We've actually seen it on WWE. I mean,
Absolutely.
The Mike Chioda Chris Jericho incident, perfect example of that, you know?
Yes.
I can tell you're trying to recall. It was when Neville broke his ankle and Jericho called the finish to the match early.
Right. Okay.
Mike Chioda was the ref in that match.
Right. Yeah, but yeah, you didn't have a situation with the ref. I mean, in this situation, the ref didn't know, but it happened at the finish. So there was no way to actually change that on the fly.
Right.
Unlike that situation a few weeks ago between Jon Moxley and Rey Fenix, where Moxley was knocked senseless and decided, okay, I'm changing the finish, but the ref didn't have a clue.
Yeah. All right, we're going to move right along here because we've got quite a bit of stories here. We're going to talk about Kairi Sane. This past Saturday night, she made her long-awaited return to the WWE at Crown Jewel, helping Io Sky to retain the Women's Championship in what was essentially it was a fantastic match, by the way, against Bianca Belair. What do you see with Kairi coming into the fold now?
I am excited. I'm glad to see her back. Again, I'm going to say this. I hope we do not get the Kabuki Warriors as a tag team.
Right.
So right now, is she a part of Damage Control, or are she and Io splitting off to do something else?
That's the question I have too, but I also I also came up with this scenario in my head this afternoon. Yes, she may have raised the hand of Io Sky, but what if on Friday she comes out and she says, "I only did this because I want the shot at you"?
She could very well. I have also seen rumblings of an all-Japanese women's stable, which brings us back to having the Kabuki Warriors together. I'm just hoping that it's not necessarily a Kabuki Warriors tag team situation. I'm thinking you could have it because we really haven't seen much of Asuka of late again. So
that's true too.
So maybe you could have Asuka come in that mentorship role much like they did when they had Paige or Saraya doing that for Asuka and Kairi.
Yeah, but with the exception of the fact that Asuka will still be able to wrestle, and we'll be seeing, if that does happen, we are going to be seeing 6-man tag matches. But where does Bayley fit into this situation? That's the other question coming out of this too.
You know what? I was posed this exact question at work today. And my thought was that this is the way now that after 3 years, you can turn Bayley face and start putting her on a bit of a roll to start winning matches instead of being, as Charlotte Flair so eloquently put it, a stepping stone.
Right.
You can have her start showing that fight again and that she wants to win. And whether she does that with Dakota by her side or whether she has to go against Dakota, because Dakota Kai is the other factor in all of this.
Yeah.
But Dakota has Tegan Knox on Raw. She has Raquel on Raw so that she could go and form her own group.
So this is the thing I actually asked Tom Collihue himself, and he said there's no way in hell it's happening. But there's a small part of me that wants to see Bayley just for one night only bring back the hugger gimmick, just for one night only, maybe at a WrestleMania or something like that, for that little bit of nostalgia pop, you know?
The only way that I would see that happening would be if they did Raw old school.
Yeah. Or maybe they bring in Izzy a couple years down the road and they become a tag team.
Apparently, Izzy is about to sign a developmental deal and an NIL deal.
Nice. She did actually have her first match about a month ago, and I've stated
she did.
She's green, but there's a lot there.
Yep.
Gonna move on to this next story here. It's a little bit of a not so surprising story because I know I've heard this man's name in the news in the past. But out of Gastonia, North Carolina, a former professional wrestler has been arrested for assault Wednesday morning and is in Gaston County jail records show. Evan Courageous has been arrested by Belmont police at 1:42 a.m. on November 1st, according to the Gaston County Sheriff's Office. The Gaston County resident was charged with simple assault and injury to intellectual property. He posted $25,000 on secured bond. What do you make of this? Like we've seen this before, where wrestlers have gotten in trouble with the law post wrestling. So what do you make of this kind of situation for Evan?
Again, for me, because he's been out of the loop for so long, I'd completely, his name still crossed my mind on occasion, but he's been out of the loop. It really didn't affect me. I wasn't there. It wasn't my intellectual property that he's stealing.
Yeah.
And I mean, as you and I were discussing this pre-show, it's just sort of one of those things, like, because we didn't hear from him post WCW, it was a case of, okay, where are they now? Well, now we know he's in jail.
Yeah, and kind of a sad situation, really, that he got himself in this trouble, because I know that he had found some minor success, just working small jobs here and there. He did do WWE after WCW for a little bit. He was in their independent in their developmental territories. I think he was with Les Thatcher. I can't recall which promotion he went to, but I just hope that he finds himself out of the situation and manages to get back on the right frame of mind.
I'm sure he will. I mean, he's never been in the news publicly since his WCW departure. So, I mean, this is really the first time we've heard of it. I mean, how many times have we seen a major superstar who is currently active get in trouble? And I mean, I'm not going to throw names out there.
The Usos.
Oh, okay, I wasn't going to throw names out there, but I mean, we've seen major stars get into trouble.
Right.
But yes, you've mentioned the Usos, Jeff Hardy,
Stone Cold.
right?
But yeah, this is like even after WCW, after WWE, he did do a lot of acting, mostly in soap opera shows. Passions is one of them. I remember him on Passions because I used to watch that show with your sister.
Oh, jeez. Well, I never watched it, so
at camp, I was the only one with cable out of our group of friends, right? So
right. I'm actually going to bring up another name, and this one's just sort of a off the cuff type of thing. I actually just learned this the other night in the episode of Family Guy where Peter had his theme music playing behind him when he was on the bus, and the guy started yelling at him.
You're going to.
That guy, I did not realize this was voiced by Goldberg.
Yep.
I just found this out like yesterday.
Seth MacFarlane is actually a pretty big wrestling fan, and he's had Hulk Hogan on his shows a couple of times. He had Hulk Hogan on American Dad last year, I believe.
Oh, I haven't seen American Dad in probably 5 years.
Yeah. But no, I really do hope Evan Courageous learns from this situation, for one thing.
Yes.
Because let's face it, $25,000 to pay for your bond, that's not exactly cheap. And I know Evan Courageous was not on the top of the payroll for WCW.
Not by a long shot.
But he was a dude in WCW that I really thought was going to make it. Turns out Shannon Moore and
Shane Helms.
Shane Helms were the ones that made it.
And really, it was Shane Helms that did it. Shannon Moore plugged away and carved himself out a successful career by traveling from independent promotion to independent promotion, working for TNA for a year or two at a time, and then taking a break.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't it Shannon Moore who had that tag team Tattoo Inc., I think it was called, or Ink Inc. or something like that?
Yes. Yes, he did.
So yeah, again, Evan Courageous, hope you learn from this situation and just keep living a normal life, because not very many former pro wrestlers get to really do that.
Right.
All right, so we're gonna slide on in. We're gonna slide on into some really controversial territory here, because we're gonna talk about one woman who is a very polarizing woman, and that being Tessa Blanchard. So once again, she has burned yet another bridge. She has burned a bridge, this time with Conan, one wrestler you probably don't want to burn a bridge with because of his amount of connections in the wrestling industry.
Right.
Conan, who works helping with TNA, where as a manager there. I believe he's still there.
No, he is not.
Oh, he's not? Okay.
No.
Well, he is down in AAA, and he works as a promoter down there for AAA.
For AAA,
he was asked recently.
As well, he owns the Crash promotion.
Okay. It doesn't say that in the article here, so that I've read. So on his podcast, on the K100 podcast, he did a show with Hugo Savinovich, one of the greatest Spanish announcers, in my opinion, by the way.
Absolutely.
They were discussing various topics, from Ric Flair to TNA, just all kinds of stuff that they've done together. However, Conan made it clear that he does not want Tessa back in AAA. He said, "No, why would I bring her in, bro? She was very disrespectful. She was like, oh, the only reason I'm in Mexico, F word Mexico, I'm trying to keep it clean here, is because of Daga. Daga was her former spouse."
Yes.
Really? Okay. Really? Okay. And why do you guys do this? Why do you guys, she always asks, why do you guys do this? Why do you guys do that? I go, because newsflash, this is lucha libre.
Yes.
This isn't US wrestling. So the way they do things in lucha libre, you and I know, because we used to catch lucha libre on Teletino up here, TLN.
Yes.
It was completely different from what WWE and WCW were doing, and ECW.
Absolutely. And I mean, there's a lot of little nuances to lucha libre that I absolutely find fantastic. Like in a multi-man tag match, one guy gets knocked out of the ring, another guy can just jump in. Doesn't have to be a tag.
I remember my first 6-man tag I watched from Lucha Libre. It was La Parca and 2 other guys. I remember La Parca very well in the match because I'm like, ooh, that skeleton costume guy's awesome. And I see him get knocked out of the ring, yet another guy jumps in. I'm like, where was the tag? You know?
Right.
But she, sorry, this is not US wrestling, he said. And bro, it would be very uncomfortable after the way Blanchard and Daga got separated. Because Daga caught Blanchard cheating.
Yes. Yes, with one of the boys in the back. So, and I mean, we've seen those types of situations before in this industry. I mean, let's look at Brock Lesnar and Sable.
Well, to use an even better example, Drew and Drew McIntyre. Oh my God, her name just escaped my head.
Tiffany.
Yeah, that's it. Not Tiffany Stratton, by the way.
No, not Tiffany Stratton.
Another Tiffany.
But there were other allegations in that situation, and that was not Drew cheating.
No, but I mean, it would have created an awkward situation had they, because they split up after that situation. One of them kind of had to go.
Yes. Steve Austin and Deborah McMichael. How about Jeff Jarrett and Karen Angle?
But somehow they managed to make that work.
They did.
So I don't know how, but they did. But no, he goes on to say that because he is boys with Daga, him and Daga are pretty tight from what I'm understanding.
Right.
He says he does not want Tessa in the locker room for that very reason. And I agree with that too, to a certain extent, because not only because of the awkwardness between the two, but let's face it, Tessa's toxic in the locker room.
She is. I mean, this is not the first situation we've heard of her in this type of a scenario, in mocking or saying something about another culture. We've heard about her belittling wrestlers, racism, bullying. So it's a matter of, when is enough enough? When is she just going to get blackballed?
She just might as well start a fed with CM Punk. That's just my opinion.
Right? I mean, and she's a fantastic wrestler. She is the only woman to actually carry one of the main company's world titles. And I'm not talking the women's title, I am talking the world title.
Yeah, I think that's where the toxicity started, was when they gave her that title. Because from what I understand before that, she was a sponge. She learned everything. And she soaked it all in.
The bullying had happened on a run on the indies, and I believe in Japan as well, her pre-Impact days.
Okay, so then that would be a little bit of a nepotism kind of thing, given who her dad is, Tully Blanchard. However, I feel like Tully could have been like, yo, this is not how we do things in the wrestling business.
Right. But Tully was never really involved in Impact, nor was her stepfather, Magnum TA.
Right.
So
two
I
guys
mean,
two guys who grew up in the old way of wrestling. Oh yeah, right? For sure.
Right. When you are the daughter of a horseman, You have Ric Flair, Arn Anderson, Ole Anderson, and your dad as your go-to to train. You can train with Charlotte 8 days a week.
Oh yeah.
And what are you doing? You're blowing it. I mean, I know there were issues with her at the inaugural Mae Young Classic.
Yeah, I do seem to remember that, and I remember Hunter and Rick being like, this isn't how we do things, you know?
Yep.
I remember Hunter, Rick, Dusty all thinking that, you know?
Yep.
But no, she is I think she needs to hang it up, or she needs a good smartening up.
Yeah.
But right now, I think we're going to shift on over to one of the biggest stories, one of the breaking stories that just happened tonight.
Yes.
That being, we have to talk about this. WWE announcing a new TV deal for NXT. In the report that I have right here in my in my hand, the CWE network will become the official broadcast home for WWE NXT starting October 2024. And this is a 5-year deal. This 5-year agreement marks the first time in its 13-year history that NXT, which showcases WWE's hottest up-and-coming superstars, will air on a broadcast television network. WWE NXT will debut on the CWE network October 24 and air 52 live weekly events throughout the season. So an episode a week throughout the year.
Yes.
So
but
what do you
I am jacked for this, but I do have to correct you. It is just the CW network, not the CWE network.
Yeah. Speaking of which, CWE, if you're in the Sault Ste. Marie area, guys, January 5th, come on down to
Sioux Blasters.
the old no, not Sioux Blasters this time.
Really?
The old Steelworker building down on Dennis Street.
Oh, okay.
They're doing that. And if you get a chance to go, you will get a chance to meet 2 Cold Scorpio, aka Flash Funk.
Yes. But this is huge. As I had read earlier in the day that the broadcasting rights for Raw and NXT were down to Warner Brothers and Warner Brothers Discovery, who also happens to own AEW, and Disney Plus. Now, I believe CW falls under the purview of Warner Brothers Discovery.
I'm not exactly sure where they're parented, but I'm very excited about this. This just means more wrestling on my TV, more access to watch NXT. So if NXT does not air on Sportsnet 360, I do not have to use their crappy Sportsnet now app to watch NXT.
Right.
But where does this leave Billy Corgan? Because he announced that CW deal a couple weeks ago. And
he did.
After the pay-per-view this past weekend.
Yes.
Kind of thinking it's no now.
Well, there's right, because that's now all up in the air. Is CW going to pull out of that deal, or are they just moving it over to the CW app, as has also been discussed? Because you do not want to go on pay-per-view having just signed a TV network deal and have one of your acts implicating drug use or implying drug use and ladies of the night, to keep it polite.
Yeah.
Welcome, Astrid. Thank you for stopping in.
Well, we see Astrid coming in. We got to do this. How's it going, Astrid?
So and Billy Corgan is just another mark that had a lot of money. And I mean, sure, he is a brilliant businessman, but he was just another mark with a lot of money that bought a company for the sake of buying a company. With, yes, he had his run in Impact to try and learn, but then he didn't. Then he fell on hard times there, and that caused a lot of bad blood. And NWA was just his revenge tactic.
In that case, though, that was more Billy trying to get his ideas out, and Dixie's saying no, that's not going to happen.
Right. And I mean, this was Billy's idea, was to air that segment on the pay-per-view.
Yeah, it almost feels very I hate to bring up his name. Parrish coming in saying that Billy was also very much into the hardcore Philly brand, 3 little letters, ECW,
Yes.
And this doing this kind of booking kind of feels Vince Russo like as well.
It does,
because Vince Russo liked to push that envelope, and sometimes Vince pushed it a little too far. You know what I mean?
Yes, he did. But again, and I mean, it's Billy Corgan, and I'm wondering if some of that is the rock star lifestyle. So because he's got to be on the road, and I know that he doesn't tour very often. Like, I don't believe he's on the road 6 months out of the year and then focusing on NWA 6 months of the year. But
yeah, because running a wrestling promotion kind of limits that,
Right. But I mean, let's look at some of the names he's brought in and some of the names he's let go. Like LA Knight, Stu Bennett.
Yeah. But what excites me about this NXT TV deal is the fact that NXT is now going to get more exposure, because as far as I know, the CW just has just that bit more exposure in the US as opposed to the USA Network does.
Well, see, and that's where I'm going to disagree. I mean, CW did a lot of the like teen drama shows, so they would be the place to go. Unfortunately, like back when we were teenagers, it was Fox that carried them. Then it was, then it moved on to the CW. Whereas USA, they do, because they're under the NBC brand, they get probably more exposure. But you had USA shelling out how much money for 2 WWE shows with Raw and NXT these last few years. You've had Fox,
but look at it this way. USA Network only airs in the US. The CW, on the other hand, has got the US, Canada, and maybe Mexico. I don't know.
Not true, because the USA does air in the Caribbean as well. As I have
Caribbean
seen
is actually part of the US.
Yes, that's true. But I've seen it in the Dominican Republic.
Also part of the US. It's a territory.
So Dominican Republic is its own separate country.
Oh, right.
Part of
Sorry,
Oceania.
I was thinking of Cuba. My bad.
Yes, and Cuba is its own country too. It's not a part of the U.S. Now, I've never been to Cuba.
But no, I'm very excited about this. Very excited about this relationship. The CW and the WWE have had a decent relationship. Thank you, Barry, for correcting me on correcting us on this. But the Caribbean islands is loads of independent countries. Thank you for that.
Yes,
I appreciate
thank you,
that.
Barry. Yes. So yes, I mean, I'm excited. I do hope it gives WWE more exposure. I think this is great for the CW network, because now they can, if they're going to keep going with the NWA, whether it's on TV or on the app, they can say, well, okay, now we have this much larger company that we want you to take some directive from. You don't have to go and talk to their executives. We're not going to force them on you, but take some directive. Maybe go talk to them. How do we improve? What do we do here? And, do that, or watch, study, watch how things get put together. And give.
Right.
So I do hope that it works out well for both parties.
At the same time, though, I feel like it's going to be like when WWE came in on TNN and ECW got the boot because of it.
Right. And then TNA moved to Spike TV after
And
ECW
WWE got the boot.
Yeah.
But no, this TV deal that OMD's destroying his studio, everyone.
Yes, I am.
He's actually mad that NWA is not getting the CW deal now.
I have not paid attention to NWA in years.
But no, I'm very jacked to see where this goes. I'm curious as to if this changes the NXT product at all. I kind of hope it doesn't. I don't think it will, but we'll have to see come October 2024.
Yes, I really don't believe it will. I think with the people that they have at the head of NXT, they're going to go in and say, this is our vision. This is what we are going to bring to your screens. So
you look like you have something else on your mind.
I'm wondering if sorry, I was just distracted by something happening in the background on NXT. But no, so I'm wondering if they're going to go in, and if CW is saying, well, okay, what can we do here? Because, I mean, we know that NXT is not going to go to a bloody shit show. It's not going to be hardcore moves and everybody hardcore blading.
Right.
I'm hoping that they're going to keep it at the Performance Center in the CWC, as opposed to trying to go back to a bigger venue like they had at Full Sail.
Yeah, I do like the venue that they do NXT at right now. I don't think that they need to be traveling weekly with NXT. Only for the PLEs, they should be doing that. Maybe the occasional big show that they do for NXT. Right. You can go to a separate arena for that.
Yes, absolutely.
But I think tonight we have to move on to our showstopper segment. And we're going to talk about one of Ontario's biggest independent wrestlers, I should say. And that's the one and only Rob Rage. Passed away yesterday at the age of 45. Very big name in the Ontario independent scene here. As soon as I can find here. Passed away at 45 years old. Had a heart attack after wrestling a match in Hamilton. For the Hammering Cancer for fundraising show in Hamilton, by the way. He did a lot of these charity wrestling shows.
Yes.
And he's gained a ton of respect for me for doing stuff like that. Right. But what do you remember of Rob Rage? Do you have any stories? Do you know anything of him?
I know nothing of him. I've never had the privilege of sharing a ring or sharing a locker room with him.
I didn't get to share a ring. This is a blow to the Ontario wrestling scene.
Yes. This is like devastating. I mean, and he had just finished his match, went to the locker room, and had a heart attack.
Yeah. He was just going into the locker room. He was going to do his post-match little rituals, whatever it was he did. Just had a heart attack. The wrestlers were there to try and keep him resuscitated. The ambulance arrived and tried to keep him resuscitated. However, he passed away on the way to the hospital.
From what
Rob
I
Rage,
read, from what I read, he was gone when the paramedics arrived.
no, he. This is a report I'm reading for Bob Kapoor, who I know. Bob Kapoor was very close with him. He passed away on the way to the hospital.
Okay.
But he had been a mainstay in the Ontario wrestling scene for the past several years, competing for various promotions, including Crossfire Wrestling, Classic Championship Wrestling, Death Proof Wrestling. He was a bodybuilder and bailed at a weight of just under 300 pounds. He was a big dude, very big dude, but small.
Right.
Because I've worked with him. I didn't get to work with him in the ring or in a locker room. I shared a movie studio with him.
Right.
He did a bunch of acting gigs as well. He was in A Masked Saint alongside me and Roddy Piper. And I remember the one thing I remember about watching him wrestle was I was sitting beside my teacher because my entire class for film class went to go watch the wrestling scenes being shot. And she's like, my teacher's like, okay, Chris, I know you know wrestling. I'm going to cling to you, and you're going to tell me who all these wrestlers were. I didn't know who I didn't know who Rob Rage was at the time. So I was lucky that afternoon I ran into Vinny Da Vinci, who was at the show, who was taping the matches, taping the wrestling as well. And I'm like, Vinny, can you tell me who all these wrestlers are on the card so I can let my teacher know? He's like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. I'll just list them off for me to tell.
Right.
And I'm like, so I came in there like feeling like I had a big ball of knowledge with this independent wrestling scene. At the time, I really didn't have that much knowledge.
Right.
And so I'm just listing off. And throughout that day, as Vinny told me the wrestlers, I went on Cage Match and decided to find out like some little bits of history on the wrestlers. And I actually read up on Rob Rage's history, and I was just like, I saw the list of matches he had at that time, and I'm like, holy fuck, how have I not heard of this dude? You know?
Right. Right. But again,
he went by the. Sorry, go ahead.
From my understanding, he was one of those guys that never wanted to go out and, make the show about him or be that guy to go on television and go hit the big companies.
Right. But at that time, I was also doing a lot of watching a lot of independent wrestling at the time, too. So I'm like, how have I not seen this guy,
Right.
Because I was doing work for Sioux Area or for Saw Wrestling at the time as well. So
right.
But he did make some big splashes as far as being on television goes. He was in several episodes of the Dark Side of the Ring. He played Road Warrior Hawk in the Legion of Doom episode.
Okay.
He played Hulk Hogan in a few Hulk Hogan episodes as well. He went by the moniker the Muscle Messiah Tyrannosaurus Rex, in addition to occasionally wrestling as Warrior Rage, playing off of that Road Warrior gimmick because he was Road Warrior Hawk on Dark Side of the Ring.
Interesting.
He also played Dr. Schultz in the Dr. David Schultz in that episode, in one of the John Stossel slap incident episode.
Okay. Yep, I remember that episode. I've seen that. That's probably the episode I've seen the most of Dark Side of the Ring.
Yeah.
Not on purpose,
he was,
but
yeah. Though he was said to be a big man with a self-admitted old school mentality, he came up with the old school style of training in the ring. And I remember watching him doing his wrestling scenes, and I'm like, this guy's got it. Why hasn't he made it? Why didn't he make it? But as I found out some years later, he just wanted to wrestle. He didn't care if he made it to the WWE. He didn't care if he made it to TNA. He just wanted to do it because he loved the sport.
Right. And that's why we did it.
And that's exactly why we did it. But it does raise that concern with some of these older guys now.
Yeah.
I mean, heart attacks are pretty commonplace in the wrestling business.
Yep.
We've had our fair share. There's some wrestlers even today I'm concerned about getting in that ring one more time. I remember actually at the CWE show when I found out that Mountie was going to be there. There was a part of me that was hoping that he was going to do a match, but also another side of me that didn't want him to do a match because of his age.
Right.
But no, Rob Rage, one of the biggest names in the Ontario independent wrestling scene. Just a huge blow again to the wrestling industry as a whole, because this guy carried with him a wealth of knowledge, similar to the wealth of knowledge that a guy like Chris Thorne had. And Chris Thorne,
Yes.
I mean, like when he would tell you a story or tell you how to do things, you listen to him.
You listened. Yes, absolutely.
Even the same goes for another older guy who frequently does work for the CWE. He doesn't wrestle that much anymore, from what I understand. And that's Deuce Diamond. Anytime he tells you how to do something, you do it.
Yes.
You learn how to do it, because
Deuce cannot wrestle anymore, which is why he is an official.
As I said that, I remembered him saying that at the last CWE show.
Yeah.
But it's these older guys that carry that wealth of knowledge with him.
Yeah.
And Rob Rage had a ton of it, as I had said before. So
yes,
because I remember even on the setting of the Masked Saint, I remember sitting there during the lunch break for the shoot for the scene shooting, and we saw all the boys were sitting together. All the extras had to sit in one other area, and I can overhear Rob telling stories to all the other the younger wrestlers who were hired to be on the show and how to do things, telling everything. Roddy Piper was even there doing that too. So
right. Well, when you get a guy like Rob Rage and Roddy Piper sharing stories, you tend to sit there and take notice.
Yeah, but I don't think you want to listen to the stories that Roddy was telling. He was telling stories about partying with Ric Flair. So
well, yeah.
But no, again, like Rob Rage, tons of knowledge. Sad that it's sad that he's gone gone. He's gone to the big ring in the sky, and I'm sure he's going to be putting on some killer matches up there.
Absolutely. Rest in peace, Rob Rage. Our deepest condolences here at Turnbuckle Talk and Turnbuckle Studios for your family. And again, people, if you see them, give them their time to grieve. Give them their space. This is a tragic loss. This gentleman was my age. And was probably in a lot better shape than I am.
Oh, he was in tremendous shape. He was a bodybuilder prior to becoming a wrestler. So
right.
But no, definitely a rest in peace is in order for one Rob Rage.
Yes.
Gonna end the show off right now. The world would like to thank everybody for tuning in, but we're gonna end it off with a moment of silence for Rob Rage. Oh, Papa Smokes, before we end it off here, Papa Smokes coming in. Interesting to learn about Rob Rage, R.I.P. brother. Well said, Papa. Well said.
Thank you, Papa Smokes.
As soon as I can find it. Okay, we're going to go moment of silence here, guys. Thank you, everyone, for that moment of silence. We're going to go ahead and push our socials, OMD. So let everybody know where they can find you once I find you on here. There we go.
Well, they can find me on Facebook at Daniel Horrific, on Snapchat at One Man Dynamic, capitals on O, M, and D, and on Twitch at OMD17. As well, you can catch me right here every Monday on the Raw Watch Along with this gentleman beside me and our normal host, Carl Carafel, as well as the soon-to-be available for the next several weeks, Chris Parrish. Every other week on Turnbuckle Talk right here with Chris Best and again our host, Carl Carafel, and every Thursday night at 8 o'clock on the Boar's Nest with Bubba Duke.
All right, and you can catch me, youtube.com at ChrisDamage83, Twitch TV at CBRS_entertainment, threads.net at CBestFilms83, Facebook.com, Chris.best83, TikTok.com at CBRS Entertainment. You can catch me 8 p.m. Eastern Monday nights alongside OMD every Monday night for the Raw Watch Along alongside Chris Parrish and Carl Carafel, who will be making his return next week. Also, 8:05 Eastern, Turnbuckle Talk, sometimes with this man right beside me, OMD, but all of the time, or most of the time, with one Carl Carafel, where we discuss all of our wrestling news. Would like to thank everybody once again for tuning in, and just have a great night, everyone. Be sure to stick around for on the OLE channel, where you will catch Ed and Astrid reviewing what we've got on our screen right now, that being NXT.
And
have a wonderful night.
To quote Carl Carafel, the world is a scary place. Take care of each other.